galactic halo.
It's wonderful to be back because the VIA project that I'll be talking about in many ways started here when I was an ITC fellow from 2016 to 2021. And my main interest in VIA is to map the stellar halo of the Milky Way to understand the dark matter. So Avi, thanks for the foreshadowing of the main topic of my talk here. But before being a fellow here, my first visit to ITC was actually in 2009. I was working with Mario Juric, who was then a Hubble Fellow in the ITC, studying the structure of the Milky Way halo. And the kind of data that we had at the time was basically just positions and colors of stars. So something like this, although not full sky. This is a Gaia image. And it was kind of hard because, I had to be quite clever to figure out some way to map the distances of stars just based on that information, and to study, then recover any of the structure outside of the plane of the Milky Way. However, during my stay here at the ITC, a true revolution happened in the field of galactic astronomy, and that is thanks to the European Space Agency's mission Gaia. So in 2018, Gaia released the first big catalog of proper motion measurements all across the sky for almost a billion galaxies. And what this allows us to do is to study stars that are moving together. And so this is kind of zooming into the center of the galaxy. You can see all individual motions. And this was hugely important for the studies of the structure of the stellar halo, because then we can simply select all of the stars that are moving together and identify them as tidal debris of a single object, like a globular cluster or a dwarf galaxy. And so since that time, there's been kind of an explosion in the number of these tidal debris stellar streams discovered all across the sky in the Milky Way. So what I'm showing here is all of the known cold stellar streams in the Milky Way in the galactic coordinates. So the galactic plane is here at the B of 0. You can see that there are too many Gaia stars to actually have efficient searches in the plane. But outside of it, there is almost 100 known streams. The color coding here is by the year of discovery. And so you can see there are a few in this kind of green-blue region. Like this is globular cluster Palomar 5 and its tidal tails. This long stream over here is called GD1, another one of the very early discoveries in the Milky Way halo. And then there was kind of like some period where nothing much was being discovered. Then there is this period in the pink, predominantly in the southern hemisphere, which coincides with the release of the data from the Dark Energy Survey, where another dozen or so streams were discovered. And then really the true explosion in this kind of orange and yellow part, where most of these streams were discovered as co-moving groups with Gaia. And so why this is exciting is because it gives us a handle on studying the nature of dark matter. And as we heard from Volker, now we have recent clues as to the constraints on the lambda part of the lambda CDM. But to test the CDM part, we really need to go to much smaller scales, on the scale of the individual galaxy. So far, there has been very little signal about the actual nature of dark matter other than just its total quantity on large scales. However, when we look at on the small scale of the individual galaxy, then we have different models predicting different structure of the dark matter halo. So something like this, which is kind of a Milky Way mass galaxy that has the galaxy stars in the center, and then a halo much larger than that, would be something that would be kind of predicted in a hot dark matter model where there's no substructure. If the dark matter particle is slightly heavier, we'd have more structure forming, so like in warm dark matter models. And then in cold dark matter models, we would have structure all the way to Earth masses, as Sonak recently demonstrated numerically as well. So we have known of objects in the Milky Way halo. There are dwarf galaxies that have dark matter around them. So we can kind of rule out the hot dark matter model, which predicts no substructure. But then exactly the question of how much substructure there is and what exactly is the nature of dark matter, is it more cold or more warm, that remains to be seen. And the reason why I'm excited about stellar streams is that they are encircling the galaxy and orbiting in the sea of subhalos. So while interacting with them, we would expect to see some evidence. However, this has been, a well-established idea in early 2000s. However, the data has not been looking, it was challenging, let's put it this way. So this is our best view of the GD1 stellar stream in 2010. So again, this is based on the data, which really consists only of positions and colors of stars. And so this is a sky view, sort of sky coordinates, oriented along the direction of the stream. So you can see the overdense region here, kind of along the center of the panel, and the higher density, is darker color. And so, while you can definitely see that there is some structure, like the line of the stream, it's kind of hard to tell what the properties there are. Looks like maybe maybe there's a gap over here, or maybe there's a gap over here, but then there are similar kind of variations in density just in the field. So then it's kind of hard to say if these gaps were caused by impact of a dark matter subhalo or just random variations of other Milky Way stars. Gaia changed with that too. Again, in identifying members that are kind of all moving in the same direction. Really, it only took us like a couple of days after the data release in 2018 to create a map that looks like this. So here with Adrian Prezola, my collaborator at the CCA, we just downloaded the data, selected stars using proper motions, and their colors to get a map like this. And you can now clearly see there is an underdensity over here, an underdensity over here, and also what looks like spurs of stars kind of offshooting from the main part of the stream here and in the bottom. And I want to highlight this was partly due because Gaia provided such wonderful data, but in big part also because I had made connections here at the CFA, and I was a member of Doug Finkbeiner's group, who had a very quick ways of cross-matching the Gaia data with then the Pan-STARRS data that provided much better photometry, which allowed us to get really this wonderful map so quickly. Then we wrote this up, and I worked for the next year or so on creating a theoretical model of the potential interaction between a model stellar stream and a impactor to kind of reproduce this structure. So there's one gap here produced by dissolving the progenitor cluster, and then the second one caused by impact that kind of matches both the size, the position, and also this spur of stars leaving the mainstream. And if this was a dark matter subhalo, it would be extremely exciting. The mass of the impactor in our model is only 5 million solar masses. So as I said, if this set the limit of the minimum halo mass form, that would improve by more than a factor of 2 our current constraints on the mass of the dark matter particle to 16 keV. However, we don't know. This maybe could have been caused by something else. So one of the things I then did as a postdoc was ask, okay, so let's go look for it. Where could this object be? And I ran a number of models trying to different orbits that reproduce kind of all this structure of the stream, and found that the object could be literally anywhere in the sky. But there is the model was predictive. So the color coding here is by the relative radial velocity between the mainstream and that spur of stars. I can see that the range is not very large. It's on the order of a few kilometers per second. However, another benefit of being here at the ITC is also being embedded at the CFA and having access to all of the same resources. So the TAC was very generous on providing us time on MMT to get those spectra, and we measured very little radial velocity difference between the two parts of the stream, which kind of allowed us to narrow this down. It's still like a pretty large region, and we are trying to do better by measuring HUC proper motions, which should be more precise than Gaia's, and we got our last APOC this February, so analysis is underway, and hopefully we can shrink this further in the future. But already this kind of distribution is kind of evocative. So we immediately realized, oh, this looks like a great circle on the sky. And then again, being a part of the ITC, there was another nice connection. We got a model of the Sagittarius dark matter debris from Myrandierix and Avi Loeb and overplotted here, and they line up pretty well, suggesting that this perturbation may have been caused by something that was brought in by Sagittarius. Of course, Sagittarius brought a lot of things, not just dark matter, but also some satellites and globular clusters. So anyway, having one stream will hardly be a smoking gun detection of Loma's dark matter substructure. However, theoretical prediction is that these encounters should be very common. So I'm showing here a gallery from some early work from Katrin Jelson's group in 2011, showing simulated globular cluster streams impacted by dark matter subhalos, and you can see they all on kind of different orbits, and they all show signs of perturbation, like these gaps or kind of stream folds, like this as well. And there's been just a lot of theory work kind of setting up kind of what the observations should be. And now finally we got kind of us opening the floodgates. We saw the GD1 detection in 2018, and then we just kind of decided to follow the blueprint and look at other streams. So in the Jalem stream, we also found unusual structure, that there is a narrow component and a broader component, which is not predicted in models. In Palomar 5, we had another look with the dark energy camera, deeper imaging, to find that the stream kind of fans out on one end, has density variations, big underdensity over here, another one over there. Then another study was from the S5 collaboration, which actually found that the two streams that were previously discovered as separate entities actually follow the same radial velocity trend, and like that the break actually is probably due to some dynamical perturbation. And then most recently, there was this study also based on the data from the dark energy camera. I think this is part of the Delft survey in one of our most distant streams called JET. There are these signatures of small wiggles around the kind of main path. And so now with kind of this in mind, people started really asking the question, how much are we learning about dark matter, or are there any other ways of creating these substructures? And a way to look at it is to ask on what kind of orbits those streams are, what could be affecting them. And so the plot I'm showing here, so these are the streams with known orbits as a function of their galactocentric distance on the x-axis, and then the fraction of the angular momentum aligned with the disk and with the Milky Way disk. So this is on the y-axis. And region that is kind of influenced by the disk, and the bar is here on the bottom. So the LZ is negative, the disk LZ is negative in these coordinates. There is another perturbation here from a massive dwarf galaxy, Sagittarius. So you can see that there are a number of streams that could be affected by other processes than dark matter. However, we think that streams that are orbiting in the opposite direction from the Milky Way disk, so in this kind of upper half of the part, and especially those at larger distances, would be more immune and kind of a cleaner test of dark matter. And so when we look at where the 5 streams that I showed before are, kind of have PAL5 in JLM and Atlas kind of in this bottom part, likely affected by other structures in the Milky Way. But then we have GD1 on top, the one that we found structures in. So it's kind of, well, at least not immediately obvious that it's not dark matter. And then JET over here, which is a much more distant stream. And just compare those two. So here is the kind of view of their orbits, past few billion years, orbits in cylindrical coordinates. So we have the sun over here, marked by the star, then the orbit of GD1, and the thicker part marks where the stream is now, and then of JET, you can see it's basically double the distance. And so this is really exciting because it seems like if we find any or can confirm any structure in JET, it has a higher likelihood of being actually caused by dark matter. So going back to this figure from Peter Ferguson's work, so this is showing on top the density map, showing our best view of the JET stream. So you can see there, like in more detail, there are some wiggles over here. And to complement this, I've been taking MAGE spectra and measuring radial velocities here in collaboration with Vedant Chandra, who is a Harvard graduate student working with Charlie. And so here we have a dozen or so measurements shown on the bottom. And these data were really hugely important because it allowed us to measure the orbit of the stream and create a model. And so our best fit model looks like this. So it's overplotted both on top and the sky positions and the radial velocity space. And then you can clearly notice there's like a thing sticking out. It looks like there is some evidence of deviation from a model in a smooth galaxy. And it is different, without this model, you might think like, oh, there's another kink over here. But now we know that with the orbit determined in a model set, we know that this is probably the S shape due to the kind of progenitor and the escape from, transition between the leading and the trailing tail. Whereas this structure over here is likely due to external perturbation that might be dark matter. And so this is, you can see, we'd like to have error bars smaller here. So still working on that and getting deeper data and mapping the stream more densely to confirm this. But it kind of does point that this basic idea should work, that if we measure properties of streams that are farther out in the halo, we will learn about dark matter. And the exciting part is that now we actually can transition into kind of more experimental mode of research instead of kind of looking at these streams one by one. And this will be enabled basically by LSST. So what I'm showing here is prediction of the number of globular cluster streams and their properties predicted in a modification to the one of the TNG 50 Milky Way-like halos. So this is work with Sarah Pearson, and what we did was take Oleg Netting model of cluster formation and simulated clusters all the way down to 10 to the 4 solar masses. So really, really low. Most of those clusters are today completely dissolved and end up in the bulge. There's kind of in the Milky Way in total, there's 10,000 of them. But here is a selection of 200 that look like they formed cold, thin stellar streams. And the axes are similar to what we had before. So x-axis is distance from the galactic center, and then y-axis is the type of orbit. So we have disk-like in the bottom, polar in the center, and then counter-rotating on the top. And every stream is kind of a small sky view of like that one individual accretion event. The point I'm showing here is that there is a huge population of these streams expected based on our understanding of cluster and galaxy formation, and all accessible by LSST in the coming years. And this is, not a fluke of this particular halo. When we looked at some other halos with different mass accretion history, we get pretty much the same picture. And so okay, how do we deal this? How do we transition from this kind of one by one streams into like really studying this entire population? So the wish list comes here. So first, we'd like to measure precise radial velocities. We see that those low mass subhalos provide small velocity kicks. So here I'm showing the impact of a million solar mass subhalo on a stream, and then convolving the radial velocities with a 1 kilometer per second uncertainty in the top, which is kind of like state of the art that we have now, and then 100 meter per second in the bottom. So you can see in the top, like completely washed out signal. In the bottom, can clearly detect it. So we want that. The second part is, reaching the outer halo requires observing faint stars. This I'm showing here just kind of distance to which we would see blue horizontal branch stars for a given magnitude limit. So really to reach out the kind of the safe region outside of the sphere of influence of the Milky Way disk, we need to go fainter than 18 magnitude. And finally, we do want all sky. There are like all of these streams probing the dark matter halo of the Milky Way that is expected to be unrelaxed. So here below, I'm showing the distribution of dark matter subhalos from Milky Way-like dark matter-only simulation that has an LMC analog shown over here. So you can see that like this distribution is highly anisotropic. So really to properly match the, provide robust constraints on the total amount of substructure, we actually do need the whole sky. And there are a lot of instruments that excel in one or two of these aspects and none in all. And so another great foreshadowing by Volker was like, we need a new instrument. And it's called VIA, and it's a project started a year and a half ago with a lot of support from both the CFA leadership and the Carnegie Observatory's leadership as well. So Charlie Conroy and I are the PIs. The instrument PI is Dan Fabricant, and have Jack Petrovsky, a very talented grad student, being the instrument lead at Carnegie. And the entire project is set on building two spectrographs that have pretty high resolution using the somewhat new technology for astrophysics applications using the binary grading, which is highly efficient, has more than 90% throughput, which will help us get those faint targets. The trade-off is that our wavelength range is fairly narrow, so it'll still be a good way to measure radial velocities and map sodium in the galaxy. And if people are creative and have their favorite lines in this wavelength region, they should let us know. The plan is then to couple these spectrographs on a fiber positioner system. This will have robotic fibers, 600 of them, spread over a 1 degree field of view. And we'll be using the Theta Phi actuator technology, which are very quick to reconfigure, so really have very smooth and efficient survey operations. And then finally, the plan is to put these instruments on the two 6.5 meter telescopes. One on the north is MMT, and the one on the south is Magellan. And this will be really the first time that such a kind of survey mode has been done on 6.5 meter telescopes, and something that sort of a guinea pig as we are transitioning into the era of 30 meter telescopes and kind of figuring out what we're doing with 6.5 or 10 meter class telescopes. This will be one thing we'd like to see kind of how well we can do. And I've been here for a few days for a VIA meeting. It's been along with the Carnegie engineers as well. It's been a lot of fun. Here in the background, I actually am showing a photo of the schedule. So you can see there's, can't read anything. But there is a long list of tasks, and they're largely overlapping. And we're being very ambitious. Oh, maybe the markings probably are not coming up, but all of them say move up. So that's thanks to Charlie. We really want to be ready for LSST with this instrument, are really moving fast. And do appreciate a lot of support we had from the engineering teams, both at the central engineering here and at Carnegie Instrument Group as well. And so to share, some of the progress. Okay, this is the basic design of the entire system. So this is the kind of 3D model of the 6.5 meter mirror cell. The instrument will be attached below it, and the F5 Cassegrain focus. And then, this is the focal plane. Then the fibers will go here. Oh, okay. Okay, I'll quickly go through this. We have actuators tested in the lab. We're working on a model of the chain design. The binary grading is being tested by Harvard grad student Abby White. We ordered the lens blanks here, of the camera, and actually have received the CCDs, are now currently at CDP. So it's all exciting, on track to begin operations in December of 2026, just like a month or so after the first data release from the LSSD project. And here I'm just showing the movie of a potential view of having 50 nights per year on the two telescopes. We would be observing stellar streams shown in orange, dwarf galaxies in red, and then continuous areas to map the cold gas in the Milky Way halo shown in blue. These are some of the characteristics that we expect. And basically, you should expect that we, in 5 or so years, can tell you what dark matter is. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. This is very exciting. Just a pedagogical clarification. We see the stars in the stream. Now, if the stream was generated from a dwarf galaxy, there was dark matter as well, which will behave collisionlessly just like the star. So as to what happens to the stream, doesn't it also depend on how much dark matter there was around it? And what do we know about that? Is there any constraint from the velocity dispersion?
Yes, that's a really good question. So I've mostly been talking here about streams that originate from globular clusters that, if they were accreted in a dwarf galaxy, and then came onto the Milky Way, then yes, indeed, we would expect some signatures that may be there. Streams from dwarf galaxies are, for this reason, more complicated and probably a less sensitive trace of the small-scale structure in the Milky Way. But indeed, the prediction is that the velocity dispersion would be most sensitive to what the central, the inner profile of dark matter is in the dwarf galaxy. I think there have been some theoretical papers saying that kind of the difference is kind of detectable but small. I think there is a signal, but it may be hard to get it out just because the magnitude of the signal is comparable.
The way I was thinking is if there was dark matter in the disrupted object and it's clumped, let's say on 10 to the 6 solar masses, you will have those clumps intersecting the stream everywhere.
Yes.
Not just one passage from the background host galaxy. Yes. So that's another way to constrain.
Yes, that is, and this is one of the other reasons why we actually want the full sky, right. And because different streams, now we are starting to have a pretty good idea which streams kind of were accreted together and maybe in the same flow with a lot of those smaller lower mass subhalos. So accounting for that will be important.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Mario, you must be very satisfied with your former mentee. Do you have any question?
My biggest contribution, thanks.
Well, yeah. Do you know roughly what is the shape of the Milky Way scale? There used to be these debates 20 years ago where it was spherical.
In fact, it is still an open question, and there's been some controversy depending on which tracers you use. I do have some backup slides, actually, for this exact question. So here, Anyway, streams can help, basically, especially streams with a known dwarf, the globular cluster progenitor. So here I'm showing work from Nicolas Nzunza, who was a summer intern working with our group last year, looking at NGC3201, which is a progenitor of the Gill stream. And he's found that, in a kind of smooth, like spherical halo. So these are just different projections, sky positions, proper motions, radial velocities. Darkest model turquoise is data. So you can see that it doesn't really match all of the data. You can try a different spherical halo, and still is not a good match. It turns out if you add LMC, you kind of start getting closer in two of the dimensions. And then if you add like both LMC and Sagittarius component, that you actually do map it very well. So I think part of the reason why there has been so much controversy about the shape is that the solution is that the Milky Way potential is actually evolving on these scales in the relevant history. So I actually need to account for all of that. What maybe was seen kind of effectively as prolate halo was really that there is an LMC being currently accreted. Yes, our plan is to do this for basically all of the streams and use a much more flexible model to actually constrain it. But so we don't have an answer yet, but hopefully soon.
Any other questions? Please.
Nice talk. Early on, you showed that some of the streams can be affected by the same structure. So I was wondering if it's possible to constrain the allocation of perturber by cross-correlating gaps or something like that.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And I think we are now getting to the point that we have a dense enough network of streams to actually be able to do that. And I would imagine, this is maybe something to work on with Lisa and other simulators who studied Milky Way-sized galaxy in high resolution to resolve those structures, but I would imagine there are not that many subhalos in the inner part. So, if you see signatures, there is a higher likelihood that it's the same object.
Ido? That's the last question.
Anna, so you showed us at the beginning this kind of heuristic picture of warm dark matter versus cold dark matter, and then you mentioned that you need a certain precision to see these perturbations, but I'm trying to, and maybe I missed this along the way, to connect this to some quantitative understanding of what ultimately will your measurement, once you have all of this data set, let's say at the end of a successful program of 5 years,
right?
What is the actual difference you'll be looking for, and how robust is that signature going to be in telling you something about this, broad range of possibilities from warm to cold dark matter and other theories in between?
Yeah, so might not have the most relevant backup slide available here, but maybe this will do. So we have a prediction of how many subhalo impacts of a given mass, or some preliminary estimate of how many impacts of a given mass we expect in a CDM universe. And this is kind of for a population of something like 20 or so streams, as shown here. And so you can see that they have different masses. So the basic measurement that we are trying to get is what is the minimum mass of the dark matter halo. So this directly sets the kind of the mass of the dark matter particle. And here we're showing that, if there are these 10 to the 6 solar mass subhalos, we should have hundreds of impacts across the different streams. So that's the final kind of measure. Account the number of gaps or encounters in different streams, and translate that to the minimum mass of the dark matter subhalo.
Yeah, and just to clarify, for cold dark matter, the standard WIMP scenario or massive particle, the minimum mass is the Earth mass, or 10 times the Earth mass, so there will be no minimum mass.
And what is it for other?
Well, it depends. 10 to the 5.6, it's for a particle that has 18 keV mass.
So that's kind of like how different models look like. So this is the, abundance on the y-axis, and then you have the and scale on the x-axis. And so the CDM, as Avi says, it just kind of continues going. I guess WIMPs kind of peter down at the Earth halo mass scale. And I guess this is where we have the data now. This is where we are kind of hoping to get with VIA, would be this 10 to the 6 limit, where we get basically to the completely empty subhalos.
And that would be a big surprise, because we haven't seen such a particle in laboratory experiments. So it needs to be very weakly interacting and something. Anyway, thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you, Avi.
We'll have a short break.